Meeting to order, and if you would. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Alex, would you mind doing roll call?
Libby?
Here.
Tonya?
Here.
Brian?
Here.
Fritz?
Here.
Vanessa?
Here. And we have a quorum. Okay, so I need a motion to approve the meeting agenda, as long as there's no changes.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting agenda for tonight.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we need to get a motion to approve the minutes from the February 20th meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from February 20th, 2024.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, new business. We're going to start off with the INDOT Milestone update. I think, is Grant on too? Yeah, Grant's on Zoom, and then we have Andy Norwald and Steve Lindley here.
Andy Norwald, area engineer for INDOT for this section of the district. I just want to preface Steve's remarks by stating, again, INDOT normally does not attend town council meetings here. We are here as a courtesy, just to keep you guys informed of what's going on. We talked it over with our district deputy commissioner. We are to answer questions that were posed through the Indiana 67 email, or those that have gone through INDOT for you customer service. Again, as a courtesy tonight, we're going to stay for the sidewalk curb discussion, but this is not going to be a normal event, and we're not looking to debate, just purely informational. So with that, I'll turn it over to Steve.
Evening, Steve Lindley,
Hey, Steve.
Construction Project Manager. So bring you up to date on the State Road 67 emails that we got. I've gotten two so far. One was from Joe on the crosswalk at Merrill. So we asked for a couple different things down there. So we striped it with temporary tape instead of painting it this time. I know it doesn't have the bars in the middle, but that's kind of how it's set up. It's just for the temporary tape. And the reason for that is when we have to take it out temporarily, when we get down to that point, you'd have to have road safe or somebody come back and get all that stuff off the road. So we're going to use the tape will come up right away. We also did put signs up that shows that if somebody's in the crosswalk, they're supposed to stop. I know you said something about getting spinners. I don't have spinners available to put on there. So if you have them, you're welcome to put them up. So.
We do have some ordered too.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. And I've seen a lot more people using it, so it's working on the side. Now, some people just don't stop altogether when you go through there, because I use it quite a bit when I come across, but. And then the other one I had after that was from Fred. You sent on the sidewalk.
Thank you.
Stop sign. Unfortunately, Road Safe put that back up. It wasn't supposed to be up. We put that up originally when we had the road open for one way. So people wouldn't turn left because they were still avoiding not going the right way. So I just had to remove the sign totally.
Thank you.
So once Maple's open again, they're going to try to cut through Berkshire Hathaway and come up shortcut. So that's the only reason why the sign was there, but we have removed it. So it should be out of place. And then the last thing is, like Andy said, so anything that you have that comes across on the site, we'll answer right away via email. And when I get them from customer service on the INDOT for you, I will answer those also for you. Get as quick as I can. A couple other things going on with the construction piece. So we do have some potholes forming out there. I've asked Milestone to bring some more cold mix to fill them. Right down here at 13 and 67, there's a couple right in the turn as you come through there on the side. And then there's one forming down here at the other end, right where the transition the asphalt is. So we're going to fill those with cold mix. Now we did notice it's almost out of the zone here on the right side. Joe, I don't know if you had a chance to look at this. There's one starting to form on the right side, right wheel path, kind of on the shoulder and in the drive lane. On the side, the ground's starting to collapse there.
On Broadway?
Yeah. So you might want to take a look at that tomorrow. I'm not sure. I have told Grant to take a look at and see what we can do. That might be something we might have to flag if we're going to fix that on the side for you. But it's getting kind of big, so there might be something underneath on the side.
Sure.
Cool. So obviously you see what's happening out there right now. We were able to install water lines. They're up to Poplar right now. We have all the fire hydrants in. They also have the storm set up. So they started from 13 and they're all the way up to Walnut right now. So the next phase, they're doing the undercut right now for the subgrade treatment. So that's where you see now the holes starting to form in there. And then we don't go all the way back because we have a 12-foot sidewalk that goes in there, so don't have to remove as much inside. So I've asked for the barrels to stay tight through there and keep an eye in and out for the people. That I don't want anybody dropping off on the side. So once they get to a certain point, they'll come back, they'll start stoning, and we'll start bringing it up on the side. Cool. Questions, comments, concerns?
I do have a question. I know in our meeting Wednesday, we talked about the locates on the fiber line was off quite a bit, and you guys are going to try to get them out there to relocate. Have
Well,
you
they're not
had
gonna
any success with it?
They're not gonna relocate it. Yeah,
Really?
yeah, we uncovered, we were able to work underneath it over there. So the one they just put in a poplar was that way. They're able to slide underneath it. Now, the other problem is the water line is existing. That locate is about 2 feet off from where it was. They uncovered so far, so. Hopefully, we don't have to jut out the 45 at Poplar. They're gonna vac the rest of that tomorrow to see where we're at. Because we weren't supposed to start till we got down to Oak Street. We took out from Urban on the side, so. But we haven't hit anything else or found anything else yet, so we're good there. Questions? Grant? Grant, you there? Hello, Grant?
You muted.
Is he on?
Oh, can you hear me now?
There he is.
There you
There
So our crews are working on the water line installation. They're at Poplar, like Steve said, and they're continuing to head west. We're also working on storm pipe as well as dig out right now. So the crews have the storm pipe installed to Walnut Street, and they'll continue west following the water line, as well as a crew is working on the dig out. And then we do plan to be back on the Mount Vernon Trail roughly at the beginning of April.
And Steve,
And
you
that's all
said,
I have.
you said you're up to Poplar? Is that the street you said?
Where the water line? Yeah, we did fire hydrants. We'll start digging in Poplar and the rest where the water line.
All right, thank you.
You go from Poplar all the way up to Merrill Street with the water line. The new water.
Okay, I think that's it. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. Next on the agenda, we have the council to discuss INDOT's 36 project curbing along Broadway.
Oh, the question I think what I had 2 weeks ago was, do we own the sidewalks or not? I think there was some consideration that you guys owned them, but then once when the road's done, you're turning the sidewalks over to us.
So my understanding of it is that the state owns the sidewalks, owns up to the, within the right of way. And
Okay.
that our agreement, is my understanding, our agreement with the town or any town where a state road goes through it is the town's responsible for maintaining the sidewalks.
Okay. Yeah.
And by that, what that means is, let's say 10 years from now, sidewalks are deteriorated, means the state is going to come in, replace them, repair them, whatever. Assuming the town has been maintaining them diligently.
Right. Well, my question is choose if they do get damaged by what they're fearing, but that's in the future. What I'm saying is we repair them if they get like that one, when you're turning in that one alley by Bob Farrell's, that's a pretty high wedge there. If that's damaged, do we repair it? And do we have to get permission from you guys to repair it? And can we, if we have to, just slice it down? Or do we have to get permission, written permission from you before we slice it down?
Well, none of it can be done while the contract is still open.
Right, that's what I mean. I'm saying after this is all said and done, just leave it alone. If there's problems, we vote on it as a council. And then we take it from there. Is that what you guys are assuming? That's what I'm
Before we
assuming.
do any work in the right of way, we have to get a permit through INDOT and have it
Correct.
approved.
That's what I mean. We would get a permit, but we would be the ones repairing it if we have to.
Yeah,
Right.
well, to repair something that's broken, like if it's really the maintenance is like snow removal or, there's a bunch of debris sweeping, we sweep the highway, they pay us to do that. If a curb section gets busted or heaved up or something, they will look at us to do those small repairs like that. But like Andy said, if it's a big project in a few years where they're gonna replace them all, that'll be a state project that they'll do that on. But for us to come in and just change the curb because we wanted to
No.
change it different, it would have to go through
So
INDOT.
we would
For their
ask for
design.
permit. Let's say Bob's having customers and these are just
So
what ifs. What I'm
So-
saying is,
So to address your comment, if, let's say, a truck comes over, damages the part that's built up, and it appears to be due to the fact that of how it was designed or how it was installed. I hate speaking in front of an attorney, but my guess is the state would take ownership of that and say this needs to be redone.
okay,
If it's standard wear and tear or something something, as Joe said, something relatively minor, yeah, that's something that we would expect the town to do, or it might be something the state would do, but the town could get it done faster.
right.
That-
What
that-
if it's, I think their biggest fear is it's gonna be damaging cars. If it damages cars quite a bit,
If-
can we
if the-
come back to you,
When the,
ask for a design?
in the first place, if something the state installs starts damaging cars, the people with damaged cars are gonna be turning in tort claims to the state.
Yeah.
And I can assure you, we will address it if we start
Okay.
doing that, if we start seeing that.
Okay,
With respect to what the town can and cannot do within the right of way, I would refer you to
Okay.
the legal document that the town has with INDOT that should clearly spell out who is responsible for what. I
Okay.
can tell you what my experience in the past has been, but I'm not a lawyer. I'm not.
Right,
I'm not a
right.
lawyer. I'm not a real estate guy.
well, that's why I just want to get this squared
Yep.
away now, because those are the main questions that they're having. If there is, so thank you for answering. that.
As we've discussed with Tonya and Joe on a regular basis, our number one concern is safety. If there is a safety issue that's caused certainly by construction, we will address it.
Okay,
Or we will fix it if something we installed turns out to be a safety hazard.
okay. All right, thank you.
Anything else?
Thank
I
you.
think that's it. Thanks, Andy. Appreciate it. Okay. Are we good to move on?
Hmm.
We're good to move on?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Next, we have council to consider a special event request for Summerfest, Saturday, July 13th. Heath?
I got a lot
I know.
today, guys. I'll try and make it quick. Heath Luther, Parks Manager. I know in the past, we've kind of been exempt and still technically we are, but I wanted to get you guys a special event form for Summerfest. Please note the change from July 6th. The reason for that is unless the town wants to spend $20,000 on fireworks, the way that the 4th of July day falls this year, a lot of communities, big communities have pushed their fireworks events to that Saturday and they are booked up. And unfortunately for what we pay for fireworks, we're just not going to get priority. He is open on that following Saturday. So I wanted to go ahead and get your approval for that following Saturday. This has everything in it, relatively speaking, as far as date, setup time, that kind of stuff. I'm sure we will ask at some point in time to do what we have done in the past, in 8 PM or 9 PM setup the Friday before to be able to close that section of Stat Street to allow vendors to start being able to set up prior to the event. So we're not doing it all on Saturday morning. So that's the event request.
All day.
Hey, just for clarification on the
Yes, sir.
setup date and time, you have 7/12 at 7 AM. That's supposed to be a PM,
Where am I at here?
Front page.
front page, bottom,
Front page, bottom.
second to the bottom.
Yes and no. We will, as a staff, will start setting up in the morning where we can. We'll be doing a lot of the pre-work, not in the road at that time. And then in the evening at, 8 or 9 PM, I would ask the earlier the better, but in the past, the last 2 years, we've done it at 8 PM, I think is when we've closed those roads down.
Okay,
That would be when it is.
I'm just making sure
Yep.
streets will be open Friday during regular business
Yes,
hours
sir.
and then afterwards. Thank you.
So again, you guys, just kind of going with protocol, will need to vote that this is good for that day. And then I would ask along with that it is stated that we can start setting up at 8 PM for vendors that Friday that Friday previous.
Okay, so we're looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the special event request for Summerfest and set up 8 p.m. night before for July 13th, 2024.
Be the 12th.
Well, the 12th to set up.
Yeah.
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 Sorry.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Looking forward to it.
You want to just continue on while you're
Yeah,
standing there? That'd be fine.
State what the next thing is, we can go for it.
Next we have the community center Sharks baseball plans.
Oh, nope, sorry.
I'm sorry.
It should be the Boys and Girls Club on the new, don't have the agenda.
Lease agreement.
Yeah. Tanya's already down. She's jumping ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. It is. You're right. Lisa. I skipped it.
So the lease agreement for the Boys and Girls Club, I've obviously kind of informed you guys and kept you in the loop, kind of working through that process. We are now done with the contract. You guys should have received that on Wednesday or Thursday of last week from Andy. That is the final contract that Alex has gone over and approved, that the Boys and Girls Club attorney has looked through and approved. They have actually already signed a copy, which I'm gonna actually have them sign an approved copy from you guys. But they are ready to go. They are looking to take possession of that room March 11th. To start doing setup. It appears that they want to start they want to set up, but their summer program will start in June once school is finished, and then it will start rolling from there. In the contract, it is a year-to-year contract. It does state out $1,000 a month for them to utilize the old Head Start room, so the front room of the community center. I don't suspect any issues. They actually are coming in tomorrow, so we can have some final discussions on this, but I wanted to have this approval done before they came in. And we kind of tighten down, just kind of what some of the expectations are within the building. But I don't foresee any issues with the Boys and Girls Club. They have communicated really well. It's obviously filling a spot from the Head Start program that we already had. In my report, once we get down to the reports of financial stuff, you'll kind of see what that will do to us as far as revenue is concerned and where that falls, in the community center revenue. So I think it'll be kind of a good tidbit as far as you guys being able to kind of see how much additional revenue that will bring in for the parks. But hopefully you guys had a chance to read this contract and nothing stood out to you. I said Alex has approved it and we should be good to go to have everybody sign and get rolling on it.
Does it have a different address than the community center? Or is it all 400 West Church Street?
400 West Church.
But does it really specifically say if it's that room or it's, to me, it looks like it's the whole building in the lease. So that was my only.
Okay. If you guys are good with it, Alex, I don't know if you can find it in there. There very well could have been something in here. I know it does talk about agreed upon areas in here. But if you'd like to see, specifically the Head Start room in there, I'm sure that's a quick add that Alex, you could probably make super quick.
Yep.
And then we could, approve it pending that verbiage gets.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it even needs to be there, but to me, it felt like that.
It would be cleaner, I think.
Yeah, be a little bit clearer that way in case,
Well, I think that's a good idea. Plus,
well, just the inevitability if somebody thinks they're gonna have something else and they don't have it, and I
yeah,
don't want none of that to happen.
For
so.
sure. And the flip side of that too, is we've also had a couple of people now that Head Start's out renter wise have asked to rent out that room. And so it would probably be best to state that room specifically in here. That way there is something in writing from a rental perspective, not the Boys and Girls Club, but other renters that are asking.
Are they gonna use any other part of that at any time
They will
possibly? Is
use
that-
the kitchen
Okay.
on occasion. They will typically, if the need is there, they will provide meals for kids if they have to. They don't make them, they just get in and keep them warm essentially, or keep them cold. For those that get picked up late for after school programs and whatnot. Obviously through our system, we'll be able to dial in who's coming and going and give them access at certain times when we need to, so.
Yeah, I'm good with everything else on this.
I was
We
just
could-
thinking when you walk through with them tomorrow and do your tour and what they have access to and don't have access to. I think we've run into storage issues, like people taking over different closets or rooms or
For
things
sure.
like that, like having things spelled out, maybe in an addendum or something that is just with, goes along with this, so it's in writing.
That's fine. And we definitely have had those conversations prior. They've visited the site half dozen times now. One of them was with their national vice president. So I mean, they are very well aware of me communicating to them of what is going to kind of entail, their usage of the building. Part of that, and I believe it states it in here too, is we're not going to lose the ability to rent the rest of the facility. Obviously, they're going to have to work around schedules as far as that's concerned. If they have kids there in the evening, it's the same thing we did with the Head Start program. If the weather's nasty and nobody's renting it and they're trying to get the kids to go play basketball or something for a little while, I don't think anybody has an issue of, hey, the gym's there, go ahead and go use it. But as it sits, their room is going to be that front room with the use of the kitchen as needed for meals. So, and they're aware that in here, it also states that, the Lions Club room and the gym will be available for rent at our discretion, and they will have to work around that.
Okay. Okay. Anybody want to make a motion? You want me to make it?
I'll make a motion to approve the Boys and Girls Club of Hancock County contract for the former Head Start room.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks,
See you in a
Keith.
few.
Yeah. Okay. Do we need to sign this here? It's got a blue thing on it. I'm gonna sign it just because it's there in front of me. Okay. Next up, we have this council president to consider reappointing Cassie Bills-Brumfield, Tonya Davis, and Nancy Strickland to the Redevelopment Authority, RDA. Alex, can you explain what that is? Because I think a lot of people don't know what it is.
Yep, the redevelopment authority is a yet another body or commit or I guess board that we've put together to specifically address bond issuances. And so part of the statutory process for certain types of bonds has to go through a redevelopment authority approval. Often the redevelopment authority may actually execute a lease, and for property, the bonds are issued. So that's what we've had for the MVAH project. We had the redevelopment authority, I think, initially created for that bond issuance. And then maybe again, Adam, for the apartments that are going on in now. So it's just another mechanism or another body that we have in place to be able to finance and fund projects in the town.
Thank you for that. Anybody out there have any questions about that? No? Just want to make sure everybody knows what it is. Yeah. It's not something you hear anything about. Yeah.
Does it do basically, I mean, I don't understand.
It is unnecessarily complicated, but they're just a creature of statute, and there are for certain projects, if you want to issue bonds, or we call them paper bonds, where you have a deal where the developer essentially is buying the bonds from the town. So it's not a traditional bond where we'd put them out on the market and, banks would, bid on them and buy them. It's more of a private transaction. And so the way that the law requires you to go through that process, you need a redevelopment authority to be one of the bodies that works along with the redevelopment commission and the town council to make it all work. So it is a creature of statute, and these meetings are typically very brief. But they have to play their role to check the box in that bond issuance the special type of bond issue process.
You're welcome. And everybody's expressed interest in staying on this, so we'll leave it as is. Cassie and myself and Nancy will remain. Okay, there's no old business. Joe?
Just a few quick items. Let you know, we did close out our 2022 Community Crossing Matching Grant. After having all of our paving and everything done last year, we will be sending INDOT a check back for $97,448, which I hate to say, but I will say we stretched those dollars as far as we could. So in the application, we bid quantities and we bid a percentage of road repair and overcut and extra stuff that needed to be done. And it just underran by that much. Excuse me, I don't know why I'm so hoarse, but the way that their grant is structured, when we apply for the funds, we have to tell them this particular road from point A to point B, and that is the only thing that those dollars can be used for. So all the roads that we paved from point A to point B, just like they said, was done, and probably done even with a little bit more full depth, just to make sure that we got it right. We still had an additional $97,000 out of that we are sending back. With on top of that, though, we did spend some of our additional funds to do some additional roads and sidewalks and curbing that was not on the INDOT list. So we did it's about $1,400,000 worth of paving last year with this project. Also, the service line inventory that we've been working on, we've been working with Commonwealth Engineering. Pretty much got that completed to the point to where we could submit it to IDEM. That was something that was requested by the Indiana Finance Authority. And we're planning to submit a grant application for like $10,000 to help develop planning and a PER, which is preliminary engineering report. So we can get that report done, which would make us eligible to apply for some more grants or low interest funding to be able to go out and replace some of these lines that are older in the ground. I was really pleased to find out, I know this last year it seemed like we've had more leaks than we've had in forever, but years and years ago, it seemed like we would have 3 or 4 working at the same time. And we were constantly fixing leaks. Out of roughly 3,500 services we've got in town, about 321 of them are unknown. We're not sure what material they are because we've not dug on them and not been doing any work with them. And let's see, there's there's another 52, so 321 and 52. So out of 3,500 services, I feel pretty good that a lot of that is Helmcrest. We've already got new mains and new meter pits out there. We just haven't gotten them converted yet and switched over. And then there's some other stuff downtown that we need to, part of the old town that we got to switch out. But as soon as we get hopefully we'll get a grant for that, and we can do that preliminary engineering report, and then be able to apply for some funding and maybe try to get those knocked out. The guy's been flushing hydrants, as you know. I've been reporting that at every meeting. They've got out of 550, they've got 400 done. They're probably a week and a half away from finishing. They've gotten everything done. Central part of town, Old Town, Windstone. They've been out the school and all the subdivisions out there, and they're up in the northeastern part of the town now, even out of town, out into the Hamilton County area. So I look for them to make good progress this next week and a half. We should start seeing some difference. I hope that folks in town are starting to see some cleaner water, not getting the rust that they were getting before. And with that, I will say that the water treatment plant, they are still, wrestling with some bugs and working on some, I don't want to say bugs, I guess, some glitches in the system that they're trying to get dialed in. So that's ongoing, but they are monitoring it very close and trying to get everything ironed out. So we're back to producing good, clean water again.
Good.
And with that, I think that's all I've got this evening, unless you've got something else for me.
We have nothing.
Awesome.
Adam, you got anything for us?
No, nothing for me. But I just want to make sure that you all signed that document.
Yeah.
Marmion.
Yeah,
Great.
we'll get it signed.
Are there any questions on any planning issues? Yep. All right. Thank you.
Oh, I do.
Yep.
How's the permitting process going for you?
It's going well. I would say overall, I would hope that our stakeholders, whether they're the general public, whether they're contractors, home builders, have a good experience with it. I'm sure like anything, there's always room for improvement, that's for sure. So if you hear anything from anybody, that something that needs to be fixed, let me know and we can do that.
Well, I'm just wondering, so the online process, they submit everything online and they can see where it stands as far as like what's being approved, what's not being approved, time wise, how, what to expect. An answer, anything like that?
It's not necessarily set up to be quite that transparent. It might be able to, but we're not there at that point. What we do to inform the public is we say, as soon as we receive it, we'll say received, forward it on to Jerry, our building inspector, and then we'll say, depending on the application, get them comments or approval in about a week or so, sometimes 10 business days. It depends.
Okay.
Some things, as you might remember for years, we do over the counter, things like electrical permits. And in fact, we've been training Liz McCrite, our new admin assistant, to do, basically take me out of it entirely on those. So it would just be between her and Jerry to review those. So the other thing that's worth pointing out is, although it does take a little bit additional time for staff to process, we do allow submittals to be in person via paper for those that prefer to do it that way. I'd say probably 15% of folks would prefer to do it that way rather than online. So we respect that. And then we'll just enter that information into our system as well. So I think the vast majority, like I said, will do it online, but some don't like to, and that's fine. So I think it's been working out, but sometimes it can be kind of tedious to actually enter everything, get it processed, and then track it on our network drive and on the web portal. So we're always working on ways to try to streamline that, both for the stakeholders and for their staff as well.
But you're looking at like a 10-day turnaround, basically.
Generally speaking,
Okay.
we always say 10 business days.
Okay.
For everything except for electrical permits, where we try to do those the same day.
Okay.
So.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Okay, back to Heath again. What do you guys want to sign?
Heath Huth, the Parks Manager, again for the record. Obviously, I had quite a few things I wanted to go over this evening as far as the parks are concerned. So let's dig right into it. The first thing I wanted to just very quickly give you guys a heads up. There's a gentleman that will be asked to be on the council meeting for the next council meeting. His name's Jason Tallman. He's with a baseball organization that encompasses 20 plus teams, I think 24, 25 at this point in time. He has expressed interest. He's I believe maybe coached at Butler and Marion University. He is now the head coach at Lawrence North. A lot of his kids in his program are from the Mount Vernon, McCordsville, Fishers, Lawrence area. He is very interested in renting out our gym as a permanent space for their home, retrofitting that into a indoor baseball facility. It's something you guys as council He just wants to come in and introduce himself and kind of lay out what he's looking to do. You guys will have to talk amongst yourself at that point in time to kind of see if it's something from a community's perspective, if that's worth pursuing from a rental perspective. Obviously from a revenue perspective, they're willing to pay a very good amount of money to be able to come in and do this. Along with that, I know there's been talk about businesses on Main Street struggling a little bit, things like that. One of the things I would encourage you guys to consider when he comes in to talk is the amount of families that he would be bringing in from around that would have to kill 2 or 3 hours while their kids are at practice because they're not driving from, Fishers here and back and forth. So they will be milling around town, whether it's, Taxman, Fox Garden, boutiques, things like that. So not only do I think it's a possible great opportunity for the park, we'd have to see how everything worked out. I think it would be a great opportunity to be able to drive some foot traffic in and around town from a business perspective as well. So he'll be in. We can talk more about this after he comes in and introduces himself and kind of lays out what his direction is and kind of his background and what the organization is trying to do. So with that being said, Adam, are you able to pull up the presentation, please?
That was indoor baseball. Is that what you said?
It's indoor baseball facility. They want to use it year round for indoor stuff,
Yeah.
pitch, softball, baseball, hitting, all that kind of fun stuff.
Is anybody using it for basketball?
We had a couple of straggler basketball teams this year. We would have to look at, and I will get into it a little bit on the presentation, what the revenues look like. We'll have to look at what our revenues are as they sit for our current rentals versus what we would want to ask, this organization to say, hey, you guys are going to have to make up at least, X amount. And on top of that, we would, in full transparency, lose the ability to rent the gym for things like birthday parties and stuff like that. So if that's more important from a community perspective, then it's maybe something we need to think about. The nice thing about it is, and I'll go over it a little bit in here, but the Lions Club would still be rentable at that point in time, even with that facility being in there. So we would still have some ability to even rent out the Lions Club room as well. So I put together kind of a parks recap, and what I tried to do is, I don't know that this has happened necessarily since we've had all new council members. There may be 1 or 2 of you that were on the last time this major recap happened, but I just kind of want to go over where the parks started. I personally, I think it was October 2017 was when I started here. And the first, let's just call it 6 months to a year, was really trying to figure out where we stood and which direction we needed to go from a parks perspective. And so it just timing wise of this all kind of fits together from the time that I started 2018 to 2023. And I just kind of wanted to recap some of the things that we've been able to do within the parks. And then obviously some of the revenue conversation, and then what it looks like moving forward from a parks perspective is concerned. So Adam, if you can head to the next slide for me. I know it's a little bit hard to read. Are you able to make that into a full screen slideshow, por favor? Okay, fair enough.
I can see it.
And I can get this presentation to anybody that wants it, but some of the major things that we've done obviously hasn't really been budget included because our parks budget has grown every year. And if you guys looked at the rough draft of the Parks Master Plan that is done, it's grown pretty steadily up until this year, where we've had quite a bit of added revenue into that, which I'll go over a little bit here in a few slides. But obviously we've built the dog park. We renovated the dog park restroom. We were able to put in the trail from that parking lot area all the way up to Flat Fork. We spent a considerable amount of money on those hillsides and getting those put in. Some of the stuff that a lot of the people don't care about, but I do from a utility standpoint, is we were able to get new roof on the community centers, new HVAC units for the community center, all 4 of them. In addition to the solar field that's up there. The basketball court resurfacing, the tennis court resurfacing, the lights, the security, the complete renovation of the shelter house. And you'll see in the revenue, bless you, you'll see in our revenue exactly how that affected our revenue when we get there on that slide. And then obviously we put quite a bit of money back into that bridge, hopefully making that something that's going to be a little bit longer lasting than what we've had in the past. So There is quite a few completed capital improvement projects, and thankfully, we've been fortunate enough between the GEO bond and the other revenue bond that we were able to pull to be able to do a lot of this stuff, because much of this wouldn't have been possible without being able to do those kind of things. So we obviously have to keep looking at different ways to fund, right, and different ways to make these capital improvement happens, but we've been pretty fortunate for a town of less than 5,000 to be able to do many of these things. So Adam, next one, please. Just kind of some pictures of what some of the major work is done. Go ahead and go to the next one for me, Adam. Along with the capital improvement projects, we've been able to, from a maintenance standpoint, obviously purchase the new parks truck, be able to get 2 new parks trucks from the street department, the new mowers, the new mower and snow blower, which obviously helps us do Main Street on the occasion that it does snow around here. We were able to go out and buy an 18-foot utility trailer, which is nice because eventually if we have more park space and have to take equipment there, we will need to use that trailer. The John Deere field groomer in my 5 years has probably been the biggest asset that I think we've purchased. It was a smaller asset, but it helps us maintain those fields to the way they are pretty consistently. And then this past year, we were able to get the Bobcat from the street department, which has helped out tremendously as well. There's obviously a lot of things that we purchase year to year. A lot of you guys, you may not see, you may not know, but little things that kind of add up. For example, we bought new chairs about 2 months ago for the community center. The chairs in there, we only had about 45. We ended up buying 84. We subsidized and was able to get up to 84 new chairs, but that was about a $3,000 purchase for chairs. So there are a lot of things that are kind of behind the scenes. I just kind of wanted to make you guys aware. You guys have all seen the portable picnic tables that we were able to purchase a few years back. Everybody uses those. The dog park, if you utilize the dog park, the pavilions, the benches, just everything within there, we're all purchased through that. But it's anytime that I feel like we've got some money, for instance, right now we've got a paint sprayer. One of the things that I'll go over later is getting every building besides the newer buildings painted in the park, the outdoor shelters, the restrooms repainted this year. And so looking at a paint sprayer to be able to do that quickly and efficiently, since there's only 3 of us, to be able to do that. So next, obviously you guys all know a lot of the events that we've hosted in and around here. Some of them we still host, some of them we don't. Our big ones are obviously Summerfest and Winterfest. We'll get into detail a little bit about revenue off of those here shortly, but those are just kind of some ideas of, or some of the events that we've done, in the past. Next slide. We've done a lot of collaborations. It's kind of been one of my goals over the last 4 or 5 years. Is obviously we haven't had the manpower to be able to pull off a lot of events. But what we can do is utilize other people in the community and kind of collaborate with them. The library has been awesome, right? We did the Penguin Palooza. We've done the Holly Jolly Christmas parties. We had the roller derby event here, the Toys for Tots. Down at the bottom, all of those down there were collaboratives, with the exception of the last couple were collaboratives with the library. The Silly Safaris, which they continue to do, the Professor Steve's show. We ran the hay rides for Treats on Main the 1 year or 2 years, I believe. This past summer with Tammy, with ATA not having a building, we were able to accommodate, and she was able to utilize our building this summer for their summer camp. Obviously the Head Start program had been in there, and then potentially, now that it's approved, the Boys and Girls Club will be another contract that we've been kind of working on through that. Next slide for me, Adam. So here's kind of the nuts and bolts of everything, and there's some caveats to each one of these. As you can see, the revenue for, let's just start at the community center, has steadily gone up. What really shocked me about this was the fact that 2020, everything else was down, but for some reason that year, and I'd have to go back and look, I think the Optimists ran basketball that year up until like the school shut down for COVID. So we got most of that revenue in for Optimist basketball that year. But what I'm really happy about is from 2022 to 2023, we're up about 49% in rental revenue. over there. And the cool thing about that is, not that I'm happy that people are gone, but that up 49% was not including any Optimist basketball for the year, and it was not including Head Start program for half of 2022 or all of 2023, essentially. So that revenue has been building pretty consistently. You move over to the shelter house, 2022, you can obviously see it's considerably more than 21, 20, 2019. There was a pretty big spike-ish in 2018. But keep in mind, in 2022, we didn't have that shelter house for the first 3.5 months of the year. It was shut down because of the renovations. But you can obviously see from the time that our facility was renovated and we put some money back into the facility, the amount of revenue generated off of that. Now, we will eventually plateau because you can only get so many people in there on certain days. But as it sits, we're continuing to grow that revenue account. That is up 163% since 2020. So we're moving in the right direction for sure. Dog park fees. Dog park wasn't around in 2018, 2019. It was only around for about half the year in 2020. And every year we've steadily continued to climb the dog park revenue coming into the park. So as you can see, the total for that over the last 4 years is about $18,000, which is pretty good. And we like to try and separate that money and be able to utilize that. The revenue off of that has purchased the new trees that are in there, and any kind of stuff that we need to do within the dog park will typically not come out of the budget. It will come out of revenue from that dog park. Sponsorships and donations, that's kind of where some of the notes and caveats come in. And 2019 was the year that the Optimist had donated some money for the fencing. It covered about $15,000 of the $40,000-ish that we spent on fencing that year. 2020 was obviously down because no events really happened that year because of COVID between Summerfest and Winterfest. And so there wasn't a lot of sponsorship there. And at that point in time, we hadn't started taking over Summerfest and Winterfest as an entity until 2021. You can see where some donations come in 2021 for that. 2022 was a big year, but keep in mind that year as well, it seems really high. And part of that was some of the events that we ran that year. That number included vendors. Before we stopped doing vendors, it included the 5K, it included the pints in the park. So some of that money coming in it's representative of what happened that year, but it's not representative of what has kind of been happening every year, because frankly, a lot of those events, and I'll get to that on the next slide, a lot of those events actually lost us money. This is all money coming in. It's not how much money is actually going out and what we're paying for the events as well. 2023 sponsorships and donations was about 15,000. There was a couple of straggler sponsorships in there, but you'll see on the next slide kind of what the actual event sponsorships look like. Adam, go back for me real quick. Sorry. Over there in the yellow, I wanted to note, or in the light orange over there, from Missy's standpoint, Beth's standpoint, I've been working really hard to try and get these appropriations as you guys look at them on our financial reports to kind of dial in. It had never been done before. So we're still trying to work out the bugs, but dial in what exactly is bringing in money and how we're separating that and where it's going. That are the field rentals for the last 3 years, plus a little bit of other stuff in there. But for the most part, my goal, and I think I told a lot of you guys this, my goal in starting the field rentals and charging for field space was to simply cover the cost of our field materials that we put down. And coincidentally enough, last year we brought in about $37.80 on field rentals, and we actually had our field material delivered today, and the bill on it was $31.20. So the field rentals are covering. The goal was to cover the cost of those, and moving forward, it looks like we're going to be able to do that every single year. So one of the things I also wanted to note on this slide, just kind of give you guys an idea of the community center utilities. 2018, they were fairly high. 2019, we were able to install LED lighting, and it dropped our utilities by about $3,000. 2020, we didn't have as much traffic rolling in there, so our utilities were a little bit lower. You can see it's been pretty steady from 21 to 23. Here's the kicker, right, is utilities aren't going down, they're going up. So the addition of the solar panels, the addition of the LED lights, we've actually been able to lower our utility bills in the community center over the last 3 years. And I would suspect that'll kind of stay around that if I had to guess, unless we make some more LED improvements and tighten some things up. But that's about average, the 15,000, which is frankly pretty good for a building that size in yearly rental. Having the new HVAC units help out with that, being a little bit more efficient. We have started over there being able to get a company come in and do regular maintenance of that stuff. So we're staying true to kind of having the new HVAC units over there. So it should be holding pretty steady about there, but I'm very pleased with the fact that our utilities aren't going up, but our revenue is. All right, Adam, next slide. All right, so this is a little confusing, so I want to kind of explain how it works. I know there's been a lot of talk on town hosting events, and I just wanted to kind of give everybody a snapshot of what it looks like, money coming in and money coming out. Over on the left side of this, Summerfest revenue and sponsorship dollars, we brought in $7,000. Winterfest, we brought in $6,500. So you're looking at 13,500 right there. In the red is what it cost us to host the events. Okay. Now in that 14,500 for Summerfest, that also includes fireworks. Okay. So obviously our sponsorship dollars that we're bringing in didn't cover the net revenue, or didn't cover the revenue, the cost of the event for Summerfest. Winterfest doesn't cost us as much because we don't have paid bands, we don't have the production company, we don't have the fireworks. And so we were able to net about $2,300. But as a whole, between both events, we're down about $5,200 out of sponsorship dollars. Now, a few years back, I went to the council, I went to Missy and Beth. We had always planned on 5,000 for the fireworks. We added an additional 5,000 for events. So if you take the budget money allocated, that's already in our budget allocated for events, the 10,000, we're plus about $4,800 from events. It doesn't really leave us with much. I know there had been some talk about, hey, we can host events and try and save money for equipment and do this and do that. These events don't make us money. They're great for the community. I don't want to not do them, but that is not what generates revenue for the parks. And it's not something moving forward that I think is going to be a major player in trying to fund some of these capital improvement projects. We've got to look elsewhere for that. Over on the right, though, if you notice, the rental dollars for the community center shelter house are on there for 2023. I took out the utilities for the community center total. I took out the utilities for the shelter house that were separate. If you look down at the $12,000, those are other park utilities, but that's built into our budget. So for our budget, we budgeted $35,000 for utilities in the community center, and we budget $22,000 for the rest of the park, including the shelter house. But the net of that is, because of all the improvements that we've done, we're up about $77,000 in revenue for those two facilities. That to me is where we need to direct our focus for trying to gain revenue to be able to do some of these capital improvements with our budget. With that being said, I want to make the council very aware. I know we'll get into the parks plan a little bit, but these conversations about revenue and trying to do capital improvement projects are not a new thing. I've been working behind the scenes, even though it hasn't necessarily been down on paper with the master parks plan. There have been conversations for improvements in the park that I've had with Beth going back years. With that being said, between her and I and Missy, we've been able to put away money for capital improvement projects over the last 3 years, right? It's a process. Adam, head to the next slide for me. Talk of playgrounds has been the biggest thing in and around the parks, right? And so I estimated this year that we were going to have enough money that we've been able to put back to do 2 major playground renovations. One being down at the shelter house, the area down there at the shelter house, and I'll show you guys the 3Ds here in a minute. And then after talking with Beth and Missy, we were actually able to save more than what I thought we were able to save. And I think we're going to be able to get a second location fully done as far as the playgrounds are concerned. So instead of doing 1 capital improvement playground, I'm hoping to do 2 this year. I'm working through that right now. We do want to get this bridge completed from Noel Lane over to the parks. We have a developer that has given us developer dollars. We might have to subsidize a little bit of that based on the cost of the bridge, but I'm hoping that it'll be minimal and we'll be able to get the construction of that bridge done as well this year. Along with the renovation of the playgrounds that you'll see here in a minute, one of the things that needs to be done that's not included in some of the quotes that I've got, because we can find it cheaper than what these companies will do it for, is curbing around the new playground material and areas and ADA accessible sidewalks. Obviously, anything that we're putting in moving forward, we're trying to focus on getting that ADA accessible. And so I'm estimating about $25,000 on that. The long and the short of it is we've got money for this year because we've been planning for about 3.5, 4 years now of these capital improvement projects. So I want to make you guys aware that I know sometimes it doesn't seem like it, but I promise there's a plan in place. And hopefully this Parks Master Plan, once we get that completely finalized, we'll be able to show the public that, but just from behind the scenes, we have this ability and it's something that we're definitely looking into. Just some of the general stuff that we're planning on doing this summer, along with the day-to-day maintenance stuff, is we want to get all the pavilions painted. We want to get the restrooms painted. We need to upgrade the lighting in the community center parking lot. It's old. The ballasts are going out. I know Joe's been working with somebody, a couple of quotes on that to be able to get that redone. There's still a lot of things from I call it the old park, that are still out there that aren't used anymore. The old restroom that's down by Hampton Field that needs to be knocked down. The old horseshoe pit, that nobody really plays anymore. We're going to work on getting that out. Continued replacement of the park swings as we see what needs to be done. We've replaced, I think we did 3 of them last year. We'll probably do another 3 or 4 of them this year as needed. And then planting of new trees in and around the park. So that's kind of the goals for 2024, the outlook. Adam, if you can go to the next slide for me. So in case you didn't know, these are the areas that we're talking about down here by the shelter house. A lot of this equipment is, well, it's very old. Obviously from a liability standpoint, it's we're quote unquote grandfathered in, but it needs to go, and we need to have a plan of action, which is what we're planning on doing. The goal would be to completely turn that area in right here into the new playground facility. I would like to move the Gaga Ball pit that was an Eagle Scout project over to this area over here and pull all the old stuff out. Adam, next slide, please. So these are the renderings. What we're looking at doing with this money is, first and foremost, that playground surface will be the pour-in-place playground surface. It will be the rubberized permanent playground surface. So there will be no maintenance, there will be no mulch, there will be no pea gravel. It will all be the rubberized, ADA approved and fall height approved rubberized material. Within, these were 2 different quotes that I had gotten. The top one was about 120,000. It shows, one of the things that I wanted to keep, if we could, was a new merry-go-round. That seems to be one of the things that gets used the most down there, but obviously the one that we have does not meet code anymore. The new merry-go-round does.
I don't think it ever met code.
I'm sure it didn't. And along
Enough
with
died
that,
on that thing.
swings are kind of a staple that I felt like needed to be in that area as well. And then some of the newer climbing, less maintenance, but still age-appropriate climbing apparatuses down there. That's the top one is the one that I really like. I'm still waiting on a couple more quotes from a couple other companies, but in addition to that, one of the things that they added were some of the musical items down there as well. The same company quoted the one down here on the bottom. Obviously it doesn't have swings because that rock structure right there, cost wise, is about $24,000 just for that structure by itself. And frankly, I liked the flow of that better. The goal would be to get that in place, have the new curbing poured, and then the sidewalk that runs from the parking lot to that open shelter have an offshoot that's ADA accessible over to the playground from there. So that would be the goal in that spot. That side, just so you guys are aware, I'm also going to get quotes. We'll see if it fits in the budget. The sidewalk from the parking lot to the open shelter is old, it's cracked, it's moving different places. So if possible, we'd like to try and get that entire sidewalk replaced over to that. That will just depend on budget at that point in time. Next slide for me, Adam. So once we found out that we might have the ability to do more than one project, up front, right as you pull into the park, everybody loves the twisty slide. The problem with the twisty slide is that's a big no-no as it sits, just because of the fall height of it and the material that's down, and it's not something that's really usable anymore. So the goal would be is to clear that entire section out, and then Adam, next slide for me. Replace it with same surface, new playground equipment, sidewalk. If you're familiar with the park, we've got that kind of access road that runs from the road / parking to the softball field concession stand area. We would have a sidewalk come off of that path to come over. That would be ADA accessible as well. So that unit in and of itself, footprint wise, it doesn't look like it on here, but would encompass that entire area of where those three structures currently sit. It's a 45 by 45 foot area. The one previous down by the shelter house, I believe, is a 53 by 65 area. So we're not talking about small structures here. We're talking about major construction and major improvements. And so that's kind of the direction I'm leaning towards that. Next slide for me, Adam, please. So some of the future items that we've identified and that have been put in the parks plan, if you've read through it, replacing the basketball court poles and backboards. And in that parks plan, you'll see kind of a timeline of when I would hope to be able to save enough money to be able to do that kind of stuff. The skate park fencing is destroyed between kids pulling it down, things like that. That needs to be replaced. It doesn't look good. Tennis court fencing, it looks awesome. The new parking in front of the tennis court, the surface of the tennis court looks great. The fencing looks old. The fencing needs replaced, but one of the things that I would like to do with it is in that front parking, cut out a section for a sidewalk to actually lead into it that would give ADA accessibility into the tennis courts as well. Because currently as it sits, there's no way for somebody in a wheelchair to get onto the tennis courts if they would like to. And what's that? Oh, sorry. So obviously with people playing pickleball as well, that is something somebody in a wheelchair happens quite a bit, right? They're able to, and I want to give them the ability to be able to do that. Obviously the timeline, going back, we need to continue. One of the things that is in the Hancock County Trails Plan, the state trails plan, we've got to figure out a way to continue to work on trails and give people walkability within the parks. As it sits right now, you guys well know, like there's no sidewalks within the parks. If you're walking in the park, you're walking on the road. And unfortunately, fortunately, nothing crazy's happened yet, but unfortunately, it's not very safe for a lot of people, right? And so kids riding bikes, elderly walking, young people walking dogs shooting out in front of cars that are even on a leash. If we can figure out a way to come up with a plan, the goal would be to try and figure out how to budget quarter-mile sections in and around the park to kind of tie everything together. One of the other major things that I want to do is outdoor restrooms. Our restrooms, I'll be honest with you, are scary.
They are scary. I was just getting ready to ask you about
The
it.
outdoor restroom up above the shelter house is a major player as far as the parks are concerned. I would love to figure out a way. And again, it's in the parks plan, and I'm going to continue to have these conversations with Beth and Missy and everybody involved. But the goal would be to continue to save money to be able to do a major renovation and overhaul restrooms in the park. And then the last thing on that list, obviously, I know FAI is here. Joe and I have had conversations about this, is figuring out what this landmark park project looks like and how we can, as a town, subsidize, what that may look like. Whether it's in phases, whether we go with a construction company, maybe do the stage and do this and just figuring out what everything entails. Again, it's in the parks plan. I believe phase 1 started maybe 2027. that's a very fluid document, right? Like that's something I would expect from a parks plan perspective. It needs to be overhauled every 5 to 10 years, but the day-to-day kind of goals and objectives, we can manipulate that and change as needed from year to year if we decide something's, you know, more important than something else. And again, it's a rough draft. We'll kind of go over that here very quickly in a minute, but that's kind of everything as far as that's concerned. The next slide is just a thank you slide. So I guess first and foremost, are there any questions from a revenue goal standpoint that you guys have for me? Yes, sir.
In the past, I think we've always had developers contribute, like build the bridge. I was gonna ask you about that. Is there gonna be a time when we need to maybe ask for impact fees, for park fees that other communities are doing in the future?
Well, I would say that park impact fees are something that we've talked about over the years, and we can always have that conversation again to see if it's worth revisiting. Like anything, there's pros and cons with doing that. Right now, the one benefit of not having them is that it does give us as staff and council some flexibility in terms of how much we can expect a developer of a large master plan community to pay for, because they don't have that extra cost of a fee per lot. Quickly, the other thing that I would add about that too is there are definitely benefits, no doubt. But one of the other downsides is that we've got to hire a consultant to do the study, which is expensive. And then secondly, I guess per state law, the amount of impact fee that you're charging has to be directly related to what the community's needs are, essentially at a build out scenario. And then they take some pretty, I think, simple math at the end of the day to say, based on this plan, we want $10 million worth of improvements for our park system. And then we divide it up by the number of lots that we're anticipating, and there you go. So the downside with that approach, and again, a lot of it is regulated by state law, is that it can be pretty expensive on a lot per lot basis for building new homes. And then also, I would add that houses, as we all know, are becoming more and more expensive, and it is another cost. So the benefit, really quickly, the benefit would be is that we do have a more steady source of revenue as long as growth is somewhat steady over the years. So that's certainly a benefit. But if the direction at some point from council is we want to start investigating this more formally, we can do that.
One of the things I'd like to add with that too, from a budget perspective, is I think we can plan from a budget perspective well enough into the future that I don't know that we would want to give up that flexibility that Adam's talking about with park impact fees. Because of our revenue going up and because some of the things that we've been able to save on from year to year, it might take a little bit longer, but I think we can, from a budget perspective, really lay out and plan kind of what the next 5 to 10 years look like within the park system without any kind of park impact fees.
So when do we take over Vernon Norris Park system, when they're completely built? And then
well, that's up to the town. And it's up to the town as to when we want to take that over. Really quickly on that particular park, Mount Vernon North, as you know, when we worked on planning that subdivision, we wanted to plan it with a very large open space that was not highly programmed, but there was enough grassy area where people could throw around the football, soccer, whatever. And so in my view, the developer has not finished the improvements that we would like to see in order to take that on our own. So we've talked to them about it.
See that.
So for that particular park, a large portion of it would remain as kind of wild growth native plantings. But then another part of it would be a large grassy area where folks can do those.
Yeah,
outdoor
remind
things.
people why that grassy, because it's all it's in a floodplain. And that's
So a
why
lot
we
of it
left
is,
grassy.
not all, yeah,
Not
a lot
all
of
of
it.
it,
Yes,
but
you're right. A lot of
big
it is.
section
So,
of it.
in fact, the last conversation I had with a developer about that was a few months ago. I'm waiting to hear
Okay.
back as to, these are the things that we like to see, and when do you anticipate turning that over to the town? So I think also in coordination with Heath, we don't want to give Heath more in the
Right,
department,
that's
more than
what I
they can
mean.
handle too. So it needs to be a balancing act.
I think the goal would be, and correct me if I'm not correct here, Adam, but would be to have, if and when we take that over, is to have it almost turnkey, essentially, like they
Right.
have gotten the open space prepared. They have taken the time to actually get some native plantings and some things like that in and around. That way, when we get it, it's maintaining at that point in time, because frankly, if we were to take it over now, the amount of work that it would take to try and get that ready to go, I don't know that we have the manpower or the budget to be able
I
to
know
do
that.
something like that. So, we've continued to talk, Adam and I, about kind of what that timeline looks like. It's just a matter of the developer, I think, getting the developer to do those things.
There's a
Well,
lot
then
of
even
dead
on
and
the-
hazardous trees on it. There's a lot of dead and hazardous trees on that property too that
Yes.
we'd want the developer to take care of. So it wouldn't be a cost on us to
Okay.
clean that up when we get hold of it.
Well, I noticed there are some smaller areas that can be developed in town, like it's only maybe 5 acres or so. They might want to just pay the impact fee rather than try to put a park in those smaller developments. But I just wanted to bring it back up since revenue, we're talking about revenue sources. And then on the lawnmower equipment, do we ever buy a brush to put brush off the sidewalks?
We got a broom for the bobcat. but
Yeah,
I don't know that I want it on the, I don't know
Well,
that I want it up on the.
Have we
sidewalk.
we've already bought one?
Yeah.
Okay, because the sidewalk on,
We'll use it on the
Madison.
trails, but we probably don't want to get up on Main Street sidewalk.
well, no, I'm talking about the somebody dumped a load of gravel on the sidewalks up on Madison. If you look, it's just scattered all over there. I was wondering if we had, like some towns will have a push broom, like we have the sweeps the streets. But do we have one of those rolling brushes?
We do.
We do, okay. There's a pile of gravel all over that sidewalk.
And we'll, now that the temperatures are getting better, we ought to be able to have the street sweeper out too. They may have already had it out. But typically what they'll do is when it starts getting cold, they winterize the sweeper, so it doesn't go out. But
Okay.
we can probably get it out now.
Well, I don't think the sweeper would get this. If you look at it,
Oh, that sweeper will pick up bricks.
I know, but will it get up on the sidewalk?
Oh, no,
Well,
no.
that's where it's all piled up on the sidewalk.
Okay.
On Madison.
Okay, yeah, I'll have them
Okay.
take a look at that.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So fundraising, you guys, is there how I keep saying at the fireworks, we need to collect money, donations and stuff like that. But could there be an event of some sort that wouldn't cost a lot of money, or something regular that you could do to do a type of fundraising that you have thought about? Or
Personally, if fundraising is gonna be impactful, no, we are better off. And I shouldn't even say it's because as a town, we are not a 501c3. So going out and soliciting major donations needs to come from, now somebody with 501c3 could go out and solicit those donations and then turn around and donate to the town. But from obviously a tax perspective, we're not able to, recognize that. So the problem that we have around here too, from a fundraising perspective and from a sponsorship perspective is, Fortville's still a small town, right?
It is, yeah.
And, I know Natalie, we're continuing to go to the same entities over and over and over again. And so it's finding that balance of not, overstaying our welcome, trying to
Sure.
ask for money to try and get those improvements done. But again, I think based on, nobody really knew, and I shouldn't say nobody really knew, like, I don't know that anybody prior to maybe Dick Collins leaving in 2001 or whenever that was, until the time I started, the revenues and kind of the detailed just kind of workings of the park weren't really a priority for anybody. And so I think now, kind of having the snapshot over the last 5 years, we're going to be able to start dialing in, some budget stuff that I think is going to be a little bit more helpful to be able to do these projects. Obviously, any kind of donations and sponsorships help. I know there's some talk about, maybe like bricks, to sell bricks for funding and things like that. But I think from that perspective, we are still going to have something in our budget to fund, a lot of this stuff. I just don't think much of
Sure.
it's going to come.
Well, I agree. I agree with you.
I got one more suggestion on the dog park. I noticed on social media, a lot of people are asking for a veterinarian. And have we ever reached out to maybe one of the veterinarian offices around here? Maybe they'll sponsor the dog park, for $5,000, which will, that's part of marketing and advertising.
So, yeah, I have contacted almost every vet in the 10-mile radius. A lot of them just didn't seem very interested.
Okay.
I know we've had a couple of people sponsor new trees and things like that. It's something we can continue to have that conversation about.
Okay.
But the dog park, for example, like, to me, what happens with those a lot of times is that money will be earmarked specifically for that project, right?
Right.
Or that entity where, the dog park, relatively speaking, is completed outside of some day-to-day maintenance and maybe some trees here or there. It's not changing. So I would rather get a $5,000 sponsorship to help out with the new playground equipment versus something that's already kind of done. But it's definitely something, we can have a conversation about. Moving on to the parks plan, I hope everybody kind of had a chance to glance it over. I just first and foremost want to make it very clear that it's a rough draft, right? I stated it in the email, but I'll state it again for everybody to hear. The way that this parks plan was done is following the IDNR fill in the blank small town master plan. It is I don't want minimum, sounds bad, but it's the minimum requirement the DNR would need to approve the master parks plan. Obviously, some larger communities will pay, $50,000, $100,000 to have a consulting company come in and put together all that information for them. It's taken a bit of time, but all the information that needs to be in it is in it. There are some things, if you guys read, what we're going to have to do to finish this out, from having a just specific parks public meeting to just get input back from the public and certain entities, whether it be the school, ATA, like other organizations that use the parks. FEI did a great job with the landmark park having that meeting. Unfortunately, from our perspective, it's got to encompass the entire park system. It can't just focus on one. It doesn't need to be anything fancy, but we will need to have that done. And then all of that information then put into the parks plan. And then we've got some other items with the final presentation of the plan here in front of you guys. The same thing, kind of detailing what that conversation was about. And then we would have to, put together a resolution adopting the new plan. And then once all of that is done, it can then go to the DNR for approval. What I will do prior to that is send the rough draft to the DNR and get his feedback. It's one guy that does them all for the entire state. I will send him this rough draft and he will, I'm sure, come back with, I'd like to see this changed. I'd like you to detail this a little bit more and go from there. And so again, it's done, but it is a fluid document. I'm going to continue to work through this. What I would ask, I know Libby had sent me back a message. My feelings won't get hurt. I promise. So you know, if there's things that you guys would like to see different, if you would like, you know, even editing errors, if I misspelled something or you think there needs to be a comma versus a period type deal, any feedback that I can get as far as this parks plan is concerned is great. And I want to do that prior to sending it to the DNR, with the caveat that we'll have to finish all the rest of it up. But that's kind of where the parks plan at. Does anybody have any questions about the parks plan in general?
I have one more question. The equipment like that Rocky Horse, it looks like it's a space alien from some other world. Can we auction that stuff off? Because people around here might be interested in buying that just out of nostalgia of their childhood. Same thing with that slide. Can we auction that off? They have to use it for like private use at their own home, but would that generate some sales?
Possibly
know
the
how
one
much,
concern that I
but-
would have is I don't know what the base of those look like. So getting that stuff out of the ground, it may be all for naught because it may get destroyed.
It would just be buyer beware.
Getting pulled out. I know there's been some people express interest in, oh, that's, you know, that's been around here since I was a kid. And, but I don't know, Alex could speak to this better. I don't know from a liability standpoint, if we're pulling out old playground equipment, if it would be okay to try and auction that stuff off.
We could probably do it. I mean, it's surplus property and go through the process, and we just want to have, just like you said, Fritz,
I'd be interested in bidding on it.
buyer be, I'm
There would
collect
be,
old stuff.
as it comes out, there would obviously be a quick timeline because we don't have space to house all of that stuff. And so, you know, hey, you have an opportunity to maybe bid on this up until this date. After that, it's going in the trash. Again, I don't know how we can get it out easily enough because I don't know, like, for instance, that slide, is there 4 foot of concrete underneath? Like, I'm not sure if we can pull that. Okay. And the other half of that is obviously with the new construction coming in, you know, we're gonna have to clear that out and ground prep and do everything for everybody to come in. So it's something we can definitely have a conversation about. So along with that being said, I'm gonna work through and I will be back just so everybody's aware to present the actual proposals for these pieces of playground. But one of the things that I want to make everybody, like, we are not going to pull out. I don't want to have an equipmentless park. So when the time comes to do, let's say, the front section, that stuff won't be pulled out until all of the parts are in and everything's ready to go. That way we can limit our time of having construction in and around. I don't want to pull that stuff out now this spring and have it sit until October
Right.
when the parts come in. I do know that one of those parts for one of the proposed items is about a 10-week lead time right now just for that stuff. So just keep in mind, I'm going to try and time all of this out, but that is definitely something that we're going to have to be aware of. Otherwise, we're going to have a park with no equipment in it the entire summer if we could just pull
Yeah,
things
we don't
out.
want that.
So any other questions about this? Okay, please, again, you're not going to hurt my feelings. Read it. Go over it with fine tooth comb. And then when it's time, we'll obviously present it to the public and get the feedback and make the adjustments that we need to and go from
Do
there.
you have a goal of time here? When do you want to?
I mean, I would like to have the parks plan, it's done, but I would like to have it finalized, let's just call it by fall. I think it's gonna take some time to work through, obviously, the public meeting and getting things, and I don't know, once I get this to DNR, I don't know how long it will take him. I hate to speculate. I would hope that he could get it turned around fairly quick as far as, since it's a small one, but I will get that to him as soon as possible, which I could probably send this version now just with the caveats of, hey, we still got to do this. We know it. Can you see if we're on the right track right here and see if there's anything else? That way, when we do have that stuff, and I'll get with Joe and I'll send everybody an email here soon on what, if we can put together a quick plan. We'll have to advertise for the meeting and stuff like that. So, you know, maybe April, sometime in April, have a meeting, a public meeting. And then from there, that should get us a lot closer. It could be end of summer, it could be middle of summer, just on how much back and forth happens with DNR as far as getting the parks plan approved. So.
Sounds good.
Good.
It's a lot of work. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. It's been impressive.
Real quick, I will send out tomorrow, you guys, someone's going to see, I will send out tomorrow in my office, the PowerPoint presentation. That way you guys can look at it side by
Okay,
side.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we got Patrick.
Well, I was going to come this evening and say that one of our officers had been hit in the high school parking lot by a student in his police vehicle. So there was a damaged vehicle. But now I come to you and saying that officer was in a pool car and hit a deer last night. So we have 2 cars that are down currently, one from being hit by a high school student and one from a deer deciding to commit suicide in front of him last night. So we are going to have some preemptive defensive driving training coming up that all the officers are going to attend, but that officer will go through the process. We have accident review boards by our driving instructors and then by his peers and then a supervisor. And then whether it's preventable, non-preventable, I mean, there's a whole process to this. And then when I get the findings back from the accident review board, I will come back and let you all know what the findings were. Normally a car deer is an unpreventable because you can't predict what nature's doing. Anything else, they take a lot closer look of, but I do have a video from the high school cameras of the student going through the area and striking the officer's car. So it makes it pretty quick. But yes, Officer Freitas is going to be assigned to a tricycle here shortly. So that's all I have to report unless you have questions of me.
Is he all right?
He is all right.
Okay.
His feelings are a little
I bet.
hurt, and I'm sure me picking on him tonight probably not helping, but I got into him a little bit last night, picked on him, but it's all good. He's not injured. It's a vehicle. We can replace it and nothing's hurt besides a deer.
That's good.
So if anyone has any questions, I'm available. Yes. It was one of the new vehicles.
Any
And
questions?
if anybody has a 4-leaf clover around, I'll take it.
Yeah.
Rabbit's foot, anything.
Missy's not here. Alex?
The only thing, just to follow up on what Adam mentioned in his report, is you've got the findings of fact for the Marmion exception to allow the 4 horses on his property. So you've already voted on it and taken it. I just need to sign that, and then Adam can put it in the file for the town's records.
We got it signed.
Thanks.
Okay, public comment. No, nothing. Council comments. You're looking at me, Libby?
I just wanted to say thanks to Heath. I'm a huge supporter of our parks, and though we're a teeny tiny community, people love our parks, and I appreciate all your work because having a plan like that really helps everyone come together and know how to help you. So thank you very much. That's it, I think. Oh, I do have if anybody sees any trailers hanging out, call Chief over here. Let him know. I've noticed, I went on a walk today in our lovely community and noticed a lot of trailers just kind of cattywampus parked, crazy. I saw one on a sidewalk blocking the sidewalk. So if you see things like that, just let the town know so that they can look at it and, gently suggest it get moved. Please and thank you.
I don't have anything.
I want to say thanks to Heath too. That's great. You guys, you've really done a lot here, and this shows it. So we appreciate that.
I wanted to thank Joe for inquiring with INDOT about the crosswalk. But it sounds like they weren't, it sounds like they kind of exhausted what they can do about it because they put out the paint strip.
I did ask them at the meeting about putting those spinny things up. And they did give me permission to put those up. So we do have those ordered, so they'll be going up as well. So that'll help draw attention to it.
Okay, so the plan for now is what's there now plus spinny things, because when he mentioned about the signs, I thought he was sort of just referring to the signs that were already out there, the marquee signs?
No, they've actually put up additional signs, but they're hard to see unless you're looking for them. They're narrow and there's a stop sign on them. And I think says crosswalk or pedestrian. I
Yeah,
don't remember exactly what it is they say, but those little spinners should help
yeah,
draw attention to them.
yeah, so I guess we could like see how that goes, like we could do that and see how it goes, because the problem with the visibility is especially people standing on the north side of the road, all those orange cones
Oh, yeah.
completely obscure. If you're going west, all you see is cones. You can't possibly see a human just behind the cones. And I don't see any change, with the cars. So we could do the spinners and see how that goes and
Yeah,
see if
we'll
we need to
see.
do something else.
We'll see if that works.
Also, I was gonna write you an email tomorrow anyway, but anyway, since we're all here, there's a pothole forming on 1000 in Cynthan Road, on the westbound lane. There's like a pothole just because
That's,
people are overusing that road right now. No, that's not it.
that's Hamilton County.
Oh, okay.
Don't act disappointed.
Call them.
Our roads are in good shape.
Well, oh, I thought that was gonna be real easy. Okay, sorry about that.
That's all right.
What does one do about that? They call Hamilton County.
Fishers or Hamilton County. It's kind of broken up in there, not knowing exactly where the pothole is. The properties that have been annexed where they're developing and building is typically Fishers, and if there's nothing going on, it's still in the unincorporated area, and it could be Hamilton County.
Where police runs that area is Fishers.
Is it?
Yeah, so anything on the north side of 1000 is the Fishers Police Department takes. So I don't know about roadage, but I'm assuming the same.
We'll take a look. You say it's on 96 or on Cynthia?
Yeah, 96 and Cynthan on the westbound, so it'd be just on the north side of that road.
Okay.
Yeah, right where that stop sign, like the only stop sign on 96. Yeah,
Is that right there where the spinners are?
it's, that's, yes, that's where the original inspiration for spinners came from, but yeah, that's the one. So anyway, that's all I had. Thank you.
Fritz?
Oh, no, thank you.
Okay, we need to have a motion to approve and sign vouchers. You can pass it down.
Make a motion to approve and sign vouchers.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I'll make a motion to adjourn at 8:03.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you for coming.